It's hard to dispute that in recent history, the Middle East has caused more foreign policy headaches for the U.S. than any other region. But now with the possibility of being drawn into another war, it bears reminding that our history of conflict in the Middle East dates back much further than Syria, Iraq, or even Afghanistan, all the way back to 1801, in fact. That year, America was still a fledgling nation, but it became engaged in the first Barbary War. Though you'll rarely hear about them today, the Barbary Wars would help establish the U.S. military as the most powerful in the world, and that is the topic of tonight's Real History.
In the post-Revolutionary War period, the United States became a maritime power. That was how our economy was based. If you owned a ship, you stuffed that ship full of everything that America had to offer in terms of lumber and iron and fish and beef and pork and cotton, tobacco especially. You sailed that boat to Europe, where you sold it all off for a lot more than you paid to buy it in America. You then turned around, took that money, and bought silks and linens and porcelain and glass and everything that the new nation of the United States still wasn't manufacturing. And you brought that back to the United States, and you doubled, tripled, sometimes quadrupled your profit. And the government made its money by charging import duty. In the late 18th century, England had the biggest, most powerful navy on the planet. When the United States declared its independence from Great Britain, one of the things that we lost was the Union Jack flying from our ships. So when we became independent, we had our own flag flying, and it was basically a signal to any country that thought we could make a quick profit by seizing these boats and holding the crews for ransom and selling off the cargo and demanding money for peace treaties. And that's exactly what began to happen almost immediately after the end of the Revolutionary War. The nations that today we call the Barbary states, Morocco, which was an independent country at the time, Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli, they controlled the entrance to the Mediterranean. And as American ships went through, you either paid the protection money or they attacked the boats, and the owners and the government lost whatever money might have been tied up in those boats. One example is Salem, Massachusetts, which was a very famous maritime city. In 1 month, Salem contributed $686,000 in import taxes to the federal government. In terms of modern money, you're probably talking about $2 to $3 billion. In 1794, Algiers decided that we weren't giving them enough money. Piracy, or the threat of piracy, is what fueled the economies of the Barbary states. They were poor backwater provinces of the Ottoman Empire, and they needed some way to stimulate their economy. By 1800, the Barbary pirates, their demands for more and more and more money had reached a point that everybody in the United States wanted to do something about it. In April 1801, the Prince of Tripoli sent an ultimatum to President Thomas Jefferson, in which he told the president either he pays more than he gives to both Tunis and Algiers, or Tripoli would declare war in the United States. Jefferson sent back a very curt, short note that told the Prince of Tripoli to take a long walk off a short pier. The Prince of Tripoli thereupon rode his black charger onto the grounds of the United States consulate in Tripoli, and he cut down the American flag on the flagpole. And it was symbolic of declaring war because wood was so scarce in a desert country like Tripoli. And that played right into Thomas Jefferson's hands. Thomas Jefferson, from the time that he had served as a diplomat in Spain and France, wanted to find a way to attack and defeat the Barbary pirates. As early as 1786, he had come up with the idea of a coalition of the willing, and that was exactly what he called it, of nations that were paying tribute to the Barbary states. What Jefferson envisioned was sending our navy to Tripoli and inflicting such damage on the Prince of Tripoli that he would never again dare to send out his corsairs to attack our vessels. So in 1801, he ordered Commodore Richard Dale to take the Constellation and 5 other vessels to the Mediterranean to take on the Barbary pirates. He was a young, vital commander in the revolution. But by 1801, he was in his 40s. He was much more of a merchant boat captain by then than he was a naval commander. And all Dale really managed to accomplish was to bring American warships to the Mediterranean. He never really established a real blockade. He never tried to attack the city of Tripoli. Jefferson realized this. He recalled Dale, and in 1802, he sent Commodore Richard Morris to take command of the Mediterranean squadron in the blockade of Tripoli. And he did even less than Dale. He essentially went on tour. It allowed his wife, who accompanied him on the voyage, to see many of the famous places in Europe. It was a cruise with a semi-purpose. After the first 2 commanders had failed miserably before Tripoli, Jefferson was looking for someone who was known to be aggressive. He was looking for someone who was known to be able to discipline officers and men. In 1803, Jefferson turned to Edward Preble to take command of the Mediterranean squadron. He was one of the first officers appointed to the Navy when it was created in 1794. To Preble, the most important thing that he could do was to prove the worth of the United States Navy to both the American people and to everyone abroad. He kept his ship on a constant war footing. He drilled his men every day until Constitution was so well prepared for combat that he was ready to take on a boat much larger than his own. He gave birth to the modern officer corps of the United States Navy and Marine Corps.